Can't trust women anymore after cheating. This was my least favorite day of the week. It was the day after payday when I had to stop by my ex-wife's house and hand her a check for child support and alimony. I didn't resent the kids, but paying Eve child support was killing me. Especially since the reason for the divorce was her and what she did, or more to the point, didn't do. I went through a bitter divorce, and when it was over, I shut myself off from women. They were treacherous and unfaithful cheaters, every single one of them, and I've stayed away from them ever since. It started back in high school. I dated Brenda for 9 months, and all she would let me do was play with her breasts and give her a few hard slaps on the neck. She kept telling me that she wasn't that kind of girl. But I think she meant that she wasn't like that with me. One night when I was supposed to be at a family function at my parents' house, I stopped by her house and discovered that she was dating some other guys on the soccer team. Next was Darby, who told me she loved me to death and kept trying to get me to propose to her, even though, as I later found out, she had a standing date with 2 guys every Wednesday. Then we went off to college, where Bethany, Mary, and Millie turned out to be unfaithful cheaters. Then I met Angel, and everything between us started to seem magical. I proposed to her, and she said yes. 2 days before the wedding, a friend of mine said, "You're not seriously going to marry Angel, are you?" Of course I'm serious. Why wouldn't I be? Are you one of those guys who likes his girlfriend having sex with other guys? No. Then you'd better stay away from Angel. Why? What do you know? At her bachelorette party, the other girls brought a dancer, and when he was done dancing, Angel made love to him while the other girls cheered them on. When it was over, she gave him her phone number and asked him to call. He called, and she's seen him 3 times since that night of the party. How do you know that? I was a dancer. That night I told Angel what I had found out and asked her if it was true, and she ran into the bathroom in tears and shut the door and wouldn't come out. I could hear her crying and repeating over and over again, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, I'm sorry." I packed my things and moved out of the apartment we shared. I graduated from university, found a job, and decided to stay away from women. That decision only lasted a month, and then I met Jennifer. We hit it off, and after the 4th date, we started having sex. 6 months later, Jen asked me if I'd ever considered marriage, and I bluntly told her I hadn't. She asked why, and I told her the whole sad story and added that I just couldn't trust women anymore. That's silly, baby. So you've had bad luck with some girls, so what? Not all women are easy cheaters. I love you, baby, and I could never do something like that to the man I love. Jen kept urging me to get married. And finally, after almost a year, I gave in and married her. The marriage progressed normally, and it seemed like Jen was right when she said I was just having bad luck with the wrong girls. One afternoon in the 3rd year of our marriage, I came in early and found her having sex with some guy I had never seen before. I set about beating the snot out of the asshole, and while I was doing that, Jennifer picked up the phone, called the police, told them I was pissed, and that she feared for her safety. The cops arrived a few minutes later, pulled me away from the asshole I'd caught with my wife, and took me to jail. When it was over and the divorce was final, I said, "Away with all women," and moved on with my life. When I needed or wanted sex, I used professionals. It was much easier that way. The great thing about being a confirmed bachelor is that no one can stand it. The married women you know take it as a personal insult and are forever trying to set you up with some candidate who is perfect for you and who will end your bachelor status. Married men you know do the same thing, only their reason is that they can't see you happy when they're not. The solution? Drag you into the pit with them. I soon got to the point where I automatically made excuses every time someone invited me to dinner or a party. But there's always someone you can't say no to, and one of those people was my best friend, Tom. One Saturday night, Tom invited me to a barbecue, and when I arrived, I found there were 4 couples and 1 woman. Not again, I thought. But Tom was my best friend, so I didn't turn around and rush for the door. After Tom's wife, Mary Beth, introduced me to Eva, I began to ignore her. It wasn't an easy thing to do. Eva was a tall woman, about 5 feet 9 inches, with a trim figure, long red hair, and the face of an angel. But all the other women in my life were beautiful to look at, too. That was probably one of the reasons they were so popular with the other guys. Mary Beth would have better luck trying to set me up with an ugly woman. I spent the entire time at the party socializing with the others in attendance. In the middle of the party, Mary Beth came up to me and asked me why I was being so rude to Ava. "I'm not being mean to her. I don't know her, and I don't want to know her." Still, she's alone, and it wouldn't hurt you to be a little more social when it comes to her. And why is she here alone, Mary Beth? You and I both know the answer to that question. You invited us both for the purpose of bringing us together, even knowing how I feel about it. If she's having a bad time, Mary Beth, that's your fault, not mine. If you wanted to set her up with someone else, you should have chosen someone else, not me. She threw me a disapproving look and walked away. A couple minutes later, Tom came up to me. "Sorry, buddy. I warned her, but she just knew you two were right for each other." "How so?" "Eva was married twice, and both marriages fell apart when she caught her husbands with other women. Mary Beth was sure you'd be comfortable with a woman who felt that way about cheating. I mean, how likely is it that such a woman would cheat on her man? Mary Beth convinced Eve that someone who had gone through what you went through would be unlikely to cheat on his woman. Mary Beth thought it would be a couple made in heaven." "Yes, I'm sorry, Tom. But you know I have a spell with women, and I'm not going to change my mind." Shortly after talking to Mary Beth and Tom, I left and headed home. I was extremely surprised when I got a call from Eva at work 2 days later. She was going to be near where I was working on her lunch break and asked me to have lunch with her. My first impulse was to say I was sorry, but I was swamped with work and couldn't tear myself away from my desk. At the same time, I was intrigued. Why was a woman I had been ignoring calling me? I arranged to meet her at a restaurant across the street from my office building. She got straight to the point. "I'm a pretty good-looking woman, and I'm not really used to men ignoring me. The fact that you did so piqued my curiosity, and being a rather cavalier person, I decided to get to the bottom of it to find out the reason. The fact is, you had nothing to do with it. My behavior that day was directed at Mary Beth. I wanted to make her as uncomfortable as possible when it came to you. I was sick to my brow of her constant attempts to set me up with someone. I told her at least 50 times that I shouldn't do it, that I didn't need it, and she went ahead and did it anyway. I decided that if I ignored everyone she invited to meet me, it might embarrass her enough to stop. Mary Beth told me about your past circumstances, and I can't say I blame you for not wanting a woman roaming the edges of your life, but you know we're not all stupid, don't you?" Long story short, by the end of the dinner I had asked her out, and 9 months later we were married. Things were great for the first 2 years, and then the first child came along and Ava turned all her attention to little Jenny. I don't mean that Ava divided her attention between Jenny and me. I mean that I didn't get any attention and Jenny got all of it. Our love life changed from 3 or 4 times a week before Jenny up until the 8th month to once every 2 weeks after Jenny. Given that I was getting so little sex, it was amazing that Ava managed to get pregnant again. But it happened. After Jimmy was born, Eva had no time for me at all. Everything was taken up with Jenny and Jimmy. Sex became once a month and then once every 6 weeks. I was only the breadwinner in the house, and not even a very good one, according to Ava, who constantly needed money for something. I made the unilateral decision to have a vasectomy, as I was not going to have another child and make things worse than they were. This angered Ava because she really wanted to have 4 children. My response to this was, "You have to have sex to get pregnant, and we don't. Remember? All you think about is sex?" "Yes, when I don't have it." And from that point on, everything went downhill. I started working late, meeting my coworkers after work for a beer, anything to avoid going home, and then one night I got home and Ava and the kids weren't there. There was a note on the kitchen table that said she had gone to her mother's house for a few days. The next morning, as I was leaving the house for work, a man came up to me and handed me divorce papers. Ava claimed irreconcilable differences. Well, I've always known women are conniving fools. I didn't fight back, just pointed out that I'd owned the house before we were married. Why bother? We didn't have a marriage anyway. 6 months after the divorce, Ava moved in with her boyfriend, and they started running a household. Not married, just moved in together. I know in my heart that Ava didn't marry him, so she could extract alimony from me. 9 months after they moved in together, Ava gave birth to their 3rd child, and another 11 months later to their 4th child. In our town, the bailiff was notoriously inefficient, and the child support and alimony payments he sent could take up to 6 weeks to reach those they were intended for. After several calls from Ava informing me that she had no money for food for the kids, I made it a habit to hand-carry her checks. I would write her a check and in the left-hand corner on the for line write child support and alimony payments for and date and ask Ava to autograph it. If I was ever summoned for non-payment of child support, I was backed up. I usually scheduled the timing of my visits so that I could spend an hour or so with Jenny and Jimmy before I left. This evening I was late, and when I arrived, Ava had already put the kids to bed. Since the kids had already gone to bed, I had no reason to stay, so I gave Ava the check, waited for her to initial it, and was already turning to leave when Ava said, "Hold on a second, Art. I need to talk to you about something. Please take a seat on the couch. I'll be right back." She left the room and returned to it 3 minutes later, completely unclothed, save for a pair of high-heeled shoes. I have to admit that I immediately blushed. "What is it, Ava?" "That's what I need to talk to you about, Art. Herb is worthless in bed, and I'm going crazy. I need good sex, Art. Herb's working a swing shift this month, so we have 5 hours before he gets home. Will you help me, Art, please?" "What's the matter with you, Eve? One of the reasons for the divorce was that you didn't want to make love to me." "That's ancient history, Art. I'm offering now. Sex without commitment. I don't know what went wrong in our marriage, but you've always been great in bed. Will you help me, Art, please?" Speaking of mixed emotions, I was experiencing them in abundance. As many times as I'd been cheated on, I didn't want to do to another guy what had so often been done to me. But I had a huge dislike for her because he was living off my money. I knew for a fact that my alimony went to pay rent, and his paycheck was enough for groceries and utilities, and still had enough left over to pay for their trips and parties every weekend. The asshole didn't force Ava to marry him, he just lived off my money. Then there was Eva herself. I'd spent most of the last 3 years wishing her all sorts of misfortunes, so why should I help her? On the other hand, I hadn't had sex in almost a month, and I was going to call a friend of a friend of a friend who was easy on the eyes this weekend. I could sleep with Ava, save myself some money, and get back at Herb at the same time. While all of this was rolling around in my head, an idea hit me. The little light bulb you see in cartoons came on right above my head. "Why not?" I said to myself. "Do it for her, and do it so well that she'll want to do it again the next time I stop by." I stood up and said, "You want it? Come and get it," and stood up to see what she would do. She stood there looking at me for a second, then licked her lips with her tongue and walked toward me. I picked Eve up in my arms and led her over to the couch. We made love to her. It turned out that I managed to do it twice before Eve told me that I had to leave before Herb got home. She walked me to the door, and before I opened it, she hugged me and kissed me passionately. Interrupting the kiss, she pulled away and asked, "Can you come by at the same time next time you come over?" "Yes, Eva, I can," I said, and as I walked down the steps, I smiled broadly, and it wasn't because I had just gotten laid. The following Friday, I arrived at Ava's house about half an hour after the kids had gone to bed, and Ava opened the door in a lacy black robe and high heels. She put her arms around me as soon as I walked through the door and kissed me passionately. She broke the kiss and reached for my zipper, but I grabbed her and stopped her. Do me a favor and go upstairs and make sure the kids are asleep. Asleep? I peeked in on them just before you got here. Humor me, will you? She headed up the stairs, and just as she turned the corner to walk down the hallway, I opened the front door and let Jimmy in. He was carrying his video camera, and I asked him to hide in the hall closet. After a minute or so, Eva came downstairs and told me the kids were sound asleep. She took my hand and led me over to the couch and made me sit down. I haven't had sex with Herb in 3 days, honey. You lying cheater. I knew from last time that she was going to try to get me to have sex with her. Doing it was unpleasant, but it would be a small price to pay for what I was about to do to her, so I said, "Okay, let's do it." I knew Jimmy had the closet door ajar and was filming everything Eva and I were doing, but I wanted Eva to lie facing the other way so Jimmy could get out, move aside, and get better footage. Jimmy stepped aside so Eva couldn't see him filming what was happening. I made a hand sign, and he put the camera away and undressed as agreed beforehand. I started having sex with Eva, and when I was done, at which point I stepped back and Jimmy took my place and started having sex with Eva, and I picked up the camera and started filming what was happening. We could only hope that Eva wouldn't notice the quick change, but even if she did, we weren't going to stop. Jimmy kept doing his thing, and I got some great shots of what was going on. Eva still didn't notice that it wasn't me with her. I put the camera away and quietly walked to the front door, and Sam, Todd, and Ralph silently walked in, stepped aside, and undressed. Sam picked up the camera and started filming as I moved toward the headboard of the couch. Eva realized for the first time that I wasn't having sex with her when I reached down, took her head with both hands, and lifted it up. I saw confusion, then realization, but whatever she was going to say when she opened her mouth was gone. After I had done my business, I finished dressing and said, "Same time next week?" "Get out of here, asshole! Get out, get out, get out!" she shouted after me, and I laughed as I walked out of the house. I made several copies of the tape, intending to give one copy to Herb and send the rest to family and friends, but I never did. I ended up keeping the original for myself and destroying the rest. I owed Eve for what she did to me, but when it came to fighting, I couldn't bring myself to be that big of an asshole. I still hand Eva the check, but I never get there after the kids go to bed, and when I'm there, Eva leaves the room and doesn't come back until I leave. I wonder what she's thinking. Does she want me to come over later? Does she want me to come alone? Or would she have a gun ready and shoot me as soon as I walk through the door? I'll never know because it just won't happen. The end!